Hey everyone, Anne O'Connell with OC Publishing here, and welcome to the author journey. I hope you're having a wonderful day. This is my favorite time of the week is when I get to chat with special guests, authors, industry experts, and others. And I hope that those of you who are watching enjoy our weekly shows as well. And today we have author Michelle Hébert, and who has lived across Canada, but currently Nova Scotia is her home. So she's not far from where I am. She has an MFA in Creative Nonfiction, degrees in journalism and social work, and she studies tarot on the side. Fascinating. Her writing about mental health, social justice, and finding joy where it seems there's none to be had has appeared in Writerly and Mothering magazines, The Coast, and in various publications across Canada, and in audio essays and short documentaries for CBC Radio. She was a finalist for the 2025 CBC Nonfiction Prize. We can use a little bit of joy these days, can't we? Her debut novel, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, which I have in my hot little hands here and loved. It was a Vagrant Press 2024 release and was also a Toronto Star Top 20 Book of Summer 2024 and a 49thshelf.com Book of the Year. Her first nonfiction book, Enriched by Catastrophe, Social Work and Social Conflict After the Halifax Explosion, was published by Fernwood in 2007, and her debut memoir, A Good Girl's Guide to Lying, Losing My Memory, Searching for Truth, and Living with Dissociative Amnesia, will be published by Nimbus in the fall of 2026. Boy, that's a mouthful. And we have so much to unpack and so much to talk about. So I'm going to bring Michelle up to join me. And there she is. Hi. And who's your little friend?
So this one is Smudge. I have 4 of them. They'll probably all show up because they will start thinking that they need to be fed soon. So
excellent. Hi, Smudge. I love Smudge. I have a black and white named Miss Ollie, so we're off to a good start. So is Smudge like a muse? Does he hang out a lot?
He shows up whenever he hears me talking at the computer. He seems to think that he needs to be here as well.
Oh,
they're
perfect.
all muses in their own way. I have an all black cat named Rory who usually shows up when I'm writing or when I'm reading tarot. So
interesting. You know, that energy, I love the energy of an animal in the home. So yeah, I tend to lean towards cats, but I love any and all. So welcome. I'm so happy to have you join us today, and hi to everybody who's watching. As we're chatting, if anybody has any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the chat, and we'll hopefully, if you have questions, we'll be able to get to them. So Michelle, your journey has been pretty varied and lots of sort of hills and valleys and hurdles. But let's talk first about your debut novel, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. First of all, this cover, I love the feel.
It is pretty.
Of a matte cover. I love that. And I always, of course, the design means a lot too. And these beautiful flaps are wonderful.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. And yes, shout out to Vagrant. This has so much woven into it. There's little supernatural, there's loss and grief, there's love, and unrequited and otherwise. Where did the idea for this book come from? That's a big question, I know.
No, the original nugget of the idea, I think, came probably back when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. And wow. I was visiting my grandmother, who lived not far from us, and she had this house with a big wraparound veranda. My mother and grandmother and I were sitting out there, and my mother and grandmother liked to watch people go by and gossip about them, basically. And so one night there was this boy walking by who was probably a little bit older than me. Mm-hmm. And when I asked about him, my grandmother said, "Oh, you don't ever want to get messed up with that family. They're cursed. All the men die young. You don't want anything to do with them." And then the two of them, my mother and my grandmother, started talking about all the men in the family who had died. And there was no reason. There was no like heart disease or anything like that. They just died in their 40s And I the story just stuck with me because I thought I remember watching that boy and thinking, what does that do to you? Growing up thinking
Right.
that you're going to die, that, and knowing that
Young.
everyone around you is waiting for that to happen
Oh,
or
gee, how
expecting that to
awful.
happen. Like it just, I thought, oh, that that's terrible, because I think that would really limit, the choices that you make, and
Mm.
um, yeah, the way that you move in the world. So I was really interested in that idea.
Wow. And so then you also have the storyline with her aunt,
Hmm.
Nevia. Is it Nevia?
And
Um,
Nerida, yeah.
Nevia. And she gets signs. Now, I mentioned in the intro that you also study tarot. When did you start studying tarot, and how did that all weave into this book?
I started studying tarot back. A friend introduced me way back in the 90s. I was doing a social work placement. And she was actually had been my supervisor, and then we became friends. And so Saturdays, she and another friend and I would go to her apartment, and we were all learning how to read tarot, and they were slightly more advanced than me. And so that's where it all started. So yeah, it's been about 30 years that I've been reading them, but it's been there was a good like 15 years that I didn't really do much about them at all, because my husband at the time wasn't really keen on the whole thing. Thought it was a little too woo. So yeah,
Woo.
now I'm back reading.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did you start reading them again before writing Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic?
I did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. And originally the book had a lot more to do with superstition. It was really
Mhm.
looking at the ways that we deal with things that we can't control. How do we
Mhm.
try to control the world around us that feels so out of control, whether that's personal loss or nuclear war, or,
Mhm.
whatever the things are that, are causing us anxiety and we can't do anything about it. We all have those
Right.
ways of trying to deal with them, whether that's religion or ritual of some sort.
Mhm.
So there was a lot about superstition, and then that sort of, I thought, well, it makes sense to
Mhm.
include tarot in that as well, and yeah.
Oh, it works. It works really well. So give us a little bit of the storyline, and then if you have an excerpt that you can read to us, that would be awesome.
So you've said so much about it already, that it's really the story of a woman who has grown up in this family that believes it's cursed, both
Mhm.
the mother's side and the father's side. So it's really examining what that does to a person, to
Mhm.
have their whole small town thinking that you're cursed, what it does to you, the ways that you can either rebel against that or accept that this is your fate,
Mhm.
and then what we do to try to control those things. But as you've also said, that there's a storyline around grief and loss, and that's another thing that we try to control, and really have no control over,
Mhm.
when that grief hits us. Uh, there's a storyline, a subplot around mental illness as well, and sort of twinned in there with grief. Grief is not mental illness, but
Mhm.
it's, the way that the main character's mother, Queena, reacts to grief is profound, but it's not. I mean, it might seem over the top to some readers, but I've seen it happen. I've
It's
seen people
real.
retreat from the world for
Mhm.
months on end to try to cope or escape
Mhm.
from their loss. So it's really, how those things, how the hurt, how the loss can affect us over time if we
Mhm.
don't deal with them. So yeah, the
Mhm.
social worker in me had a lot to do.
Yes, it is really. And there's a bookstore, and there, and the main character does go away and come back. There's a lot happening in this little story. So, do you want to read a little bit for us?
Sure.
That'd
So
be
I'm
great.
going to read there the main the aunt, that Nerida, who is a ghost, essentially. Communicates through tarot cards, but we, as the reader, get to know her through letters that she sends to Kitten. Of course, Kitten, the main character, can't actually read them, but this is what Nerida would say. So I'm going to read one of the letters that I think kind of sums up the grief that Queena feels, the main character's mother. Dear Kitty, you were right. I did understand. But there are parts of the story you're missing. Let's face it, you weren't as bad as Queena, but this whole thing was pretty heavy for you too. Grief makes people do weird things, like staying in bed for weeks, or thinking your father's an owl, or writing letters to your dead aunt. You thought Queena was in bed all the time, but she wasn't. Exactly a month after Donnie died, it was their wedding anniversary. I don't think you and Tom even remembered. That night, Tom was out having a good time, and you were upstairs writing to me. And Queena got out of bed and went down to the bomb shelter. She took a portable record player in with her, turned the volume way down, and played the song they danced to at their wedding, Never My Love by the Association. I watched them dance to it in 1969. It was funny to watch them dance because your dad was so tall and Queena was tiny, but he scooped Queena up into his arms so tenderly, and you could tell they were crazy about each other. I remember watching them and hoping I'd have that someday. Still waiting. Ha. She went down there other nights too, when she thought you and Tom were asleep. She'd sit on the bare pavement, or the bare cement, in the light from the one bare bulb, with a pile of Donnie's clothes and boxes of photo albums. She held armfuls of his shirts to her face, breathing in his scent with big gulps of air, like she could inhale him into her. She rocked back and forth with them like she was dancing, whispering to them and smiling up into the distance, flirting with something that wasn't there. At the back of the room, in a corner with first aid kits and jars of homemade pickles that you and Tom didn't bother with, she squirreled away some of the photo albums and a box of your dad's clothes. Then she had everything she needed in that bomb shelter to help her survive. Food, clothing, fuel, and memories. All those years, you thought she was using her bomb shelter to protect all of you. But I watched her down there. She only wanted to save herself.
Ooh, yay. And the other thing that is really cool about the book, of course, the title also makes you sing. And then there are like mentions throughout the book of different 80s song titles. Like what
every chapter has a song title.
And so what was that? Where did that come from?
The main character explains it as, coming from mixtapes that she and her best friend had made for her. And my friends and I did that for each other as well. And I think that's sort of because we would be like, this song is just for you. This is like this tape describes you kind of thing. When I was writing this book, I often get my best ideas when I'm out riding or walking and, can't necessarily write down everything that I want to, but I'll be listening to music as I'm walking. And so sometimes I would just hear a song and it would be like shorthand for me. I'd be like, oh, yes, this song, this makes me think that the character could do this or that this would happen. And so I started using the song titles as shorthand and then eventually realized, I like how this is working, that each one. And so some of them, the song title would come before I'd written the chapter.
I love
Sometimes
it.
I'd have the chapter and then I'd have to find the right song title. And that was a really excellent way of procrastinating when I wasn't actually writing. I could go through countless Billboard Top 40 lists.
Oh, I love that. I always say to people, there's no such thing as a writer's block. There's just an opportunity to research, right?
Yeah, that's right. And
go
listening to music was research. It was perfect.
I love that. I love that. Which was your favorite song?
Oh, which song? Oh, it depends. It depends on my
your mood.
I mean, because there's the 80s songs. There's also
Mm-hmm.
some songs from the 60s for the chapters that are
Yep.
narratives.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one, yeah, there's oh, I can't even remember. Honestly, like it does depend
I
on
know they're all
the
amazing.
day. I mean, the thing is that when I was writing them, I had certain criteria. They couldn't be songs that like I'm sick to death of, songs that I hear all the time. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to use. But I didn't. I needed to like them enough that I would
Yes.
want to hear them a lot because I played
Eh,
the whole playlist for myself a lot when I was working on it.
yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
I think that there's also a few title, they're not coming to mind, but I think there were a couple that the song title had a song in the 80s and one in the 60s,
yes,
which I
yeah,
didn't
that's
know if
right.
that was
Spirit in the
intentional.
Sky. Spirit in the
Hmm.
Sky with actually was a remake in the 80s as well. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
I loved that. I love that. Um, I had a question
yeah.
that just went right out of my head, but that's
No,
okay.
that's
Oh,
okay.
I
I
know.
did want to say
Um,
I remembered the
okay.
song from one of the 60s songs that was my favorite. It was by Janis Joplin. It was Little Girl Blue,
I
which
just opened to that page.
oh my god, I just it's exquisite, in its sadness. It's just
Mm,
captures that so well, and
mm,
knowing everything that we do about her and how her life ended up,
right.
it just it's just beautiful.
And I love the best friend storyline and the bookstore, but again, no spoilers. Who was your favorite character to write?
My favorite character to write, I mean, Bunny's a lot of fun, her Aunt Bunny.
Oh,
Um,
love.
but I'll tell you, Nerida wasn't actually in the book that I submitted for publication.
Really?
No, I, after it was accepted and I started working with my editor, Stephanie Domat,
Hmm.
who is fabulous. The structure was completely different and it was
Hmm.
very linear. So there was no surprise in the book. It
Okay.
was just the reader knew
The
everything
life.
that Kitten did,
Okay.
right?
Mm,
Um, and and we both agreed that, well, we could do this differently, but in order to share some of that backstory, we need a different way, because there are things
mm,
that Kitten's not going to know that the
right.
reader has to know. And that's
Right.
where we realized, oh, there needs to be another character. And so I just started writing this
Another layer
another layer. Yeah,
in so
another
many
layer
ways.
on top. Yes, yes,
And that's when you went, tarot fits in here.
that's right. Yes, exactly. Like I
I love
knew that she had been using tarot before that, and
that.
the
Hmm.
original version that I had written for or submitted to Vagrant, but um, to use it as an actual message, and then to structure the book around a tarot spread. Um,
Right.
that
Oh, I
happened
love that.
during the editing process as well.
I love that. I have to say, Smudge is behaving very well.
Yeah, no, he thinks this is all about him, so he's
Of
just quite
course.
happy to sit here and
Well,
listen
it
to
is
us.
kind of right. So let's shift a little bit because that was your debut novel, but now you're bookending it with the nonfiction. So the book you had written, published by Fernwood in 2007, was related to the Halifax explosion. So talk a little bit about how that came to be, and how it kind of reminds me of Janice Landry's book, Silver Linings. Like
Yes.
here's a catastrophe that you're pulling some positives out of. So talk a little bit about that. And obviously, you pulled a lot from your work as a social worker, right?
That actually started while I was doing my master's social work degree. Actually, I think I
Hmm.
started it was like a term paper during my BSW, and then when I got to my MSW, I made it into my thesis,
Hmm.
and did a lot more research for it. So that all started because I was living in an apartment down by the harbor, and I would
Oh,
sometimes
wow.
wake up first thing in the morning, and there would be like a ship going by blasting its horn, and that's what I would like, oh my God, what, like, are we going to die? Because as one does, right? Like that's where the mind goes.
Our imagination runs wild. That's what
Yeah,
we authors
yeah,
do.
exactly. And then don't look out the window, don't look out the window.
Right.
And so then I started, because I was studying social work at the time, I was like, well, I wonder what social workers did. Like I had heard stories of what doctors did and nurses did, and accounts of other professionals, but I had never heard about what social workers did. So that's where I
Interesting.
started researching.
Okay.
The
Yes, and
reason
there's
I
stories
hadn't is
about
because social workers didn't really exist at the time.
right.
There was one professional social worker in Halifax at the time of the explosion.
Oh, wow. And so it's one thing to explore or research that, but the theme evolved into something that had an outcome that was enriching,
Yeah, yeah. The title "Enriched by Catastrophe" was actually taken from Samuel Prince, who was a Haligonian and an early. I don't know if he would have called himself a social worker, but a social researcher, who, and he was a contemporary. So, within a decade of the explosion, was looking back and sort of enumerating the things that had happened that actually benefited the growth of social welfare in Canada.
Okay. So sometimes, again, from tragedy can, birth, positive development. Yeah. And so that kind of also speaks to you mentor other writers, you mostly who are writing memoir, and when you talk about digging up your past, or and the reason oftentimes people write memoir is because they have had a unique or mind-boggling experience that others might learn from. So what is that process like? And I mean, from my own experience in doing workshops and publishing memoirs, it can be a very difficult process. So talk a little bit about your approach when you do a mentoring project with an author.
I think when a lot of us go into writing memoir, we've already done a little bit of the work. Maybe we've done some therapy, we've done some thinking through, we've had some distance, or maybe not, to think of what the universal message is, because no matter how unique your experience is, you're sharing a story that's going to resonate with people who've never had experience with something like that, because there's going to be common elements of humanity in all of it.
Right.
But when you begin writing something in an intense way, in a concentrated way, if you're really starting to work on a manuscript, it can take a toll. It's a lot of mental work, even though it can be really helpful to get things out on the paper and
healing.
And it also, makes meaning of your experience, which from a psychological point of view is a very important part of healing.
Yeah.
But as you're doing that, you don't want to be doing further damage to yourself, because it can become too much. And I speak from experience, because I did my MFA in order to write my memoir, because I knew that I needed that accountability. I needed that push. Otherwise,
hold your feet to the fire.
Right? Yeah. And it was fabulous for me that way. And it certainly, you don't need an MFA in order to write a memoir. But for me, I needed that and that support as well. But the downside of that was that, every 4 weeks I had about 6,000 or 7,000 words due. And so it was just ongoing for 2 years. There was no break from it. Which felt good at the time. It was really good to get that out there. But it wasn't until I had the entire manuscript finished after I graduated, and it all hit me, like it was just like, oh dear. It's so you need to find ways of doing this work that going to care for you, that, you know, there are
Mm-hmm.
certain trauma-informed practices that you can use. And that's what I work with writers to develop,
Mm-hmm.
certain tools that they can use to ensure that they're writing safely for them, but also for their reader, because you don't want to
Right.
overwhelm your reader. So
Right.
trauma-informed works both ways. It's about protecting you as the writer and protecting your reader.
Yes. What do you think about trigger warnings in the front of a book?
I think, I mean, they can be contentious. There was a trigger warning in my novel, you know, because there
Mm-hmm.
are several things there that
Yeah, I remember that.
people, but you know, some people will just skip over that and not read it and then get angry that
They're angry if it's there, they're angry if it's not. It is one of those sort of catch-22s, right?
And I will say from my own personal experience that there have been books that I read that, if had I known how deeply that they were going to get into certain subject matter, I probably wouldn't have picked them up. And I did stop
Right.
reading at that point because of that.
Right. And you have that choice.
You always have that choice, and
Mm-hmm.
you also
Mm-hmm.
can't predict what's going to be a trigger for everyone, or
Exactly. Yeah.
to what degree. And so certainly with the memoir that I have coming out this fall, there there will be, you know, trigger warnings. It's, you know, it's quite clear what the subject matter
Mm-hmm.
is, and
Mm-hmm.
um people, but I have taken care not to be in anyone's face about
Right.
anything that's very traumatic. um,
Right.
there are ways that you can talk about trauma without making it a CSI episode.
Brutal. Right, right. And pause just for a second to give a shout out to the folks who are watching and have made some comments. Sue Slade, Dartmouth Book Exchange. Hey, Sue. She's giving us a little reminder that will you be at Dartmouth Book Exchange coming up soon?
No, but I would love
Witches.
to.
Oh, you were there
but
before.
there was a witches book club meeting. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was back in October.
Perfect.
It was very fun. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. And she's shared a link for anybody who wants to go back and see some pictures and things. And Lana Shoup from Calgary, thank you for joining us from,
Hi,
well, I think
Lana.
it's actually warmer in Calgary these days, right?
It's damp
So
here. Yeah.
with the few minutes we have left, so you talked about your memoir that you worked on while you were doing your MFA, and it's due to come out in the fall. And it is about your experience with dissociative amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was the impetus to write about it? And I know you've indicated sort of, you know, how you felt as you were writing, but what was it that inspired you to write it? And how do you feel now that it's almost coming out?
So so it's a kind of PTSD called dissociative PTSD that leads to amnesia. Oh, hi, Smudge. Thank you. And you know, for a long time, I didn't know that this is what I had. I've lived with this for 30 years. Essentially, what happens is that after a traumatic incident, your brain erases not only the memory of the trauma, but everything that happened before that.
Wow.
So I knew who I was, but I didn't remember anything that had happened to me before age 20.
Wow.
So, but I also didn't know what I didn't know. So I didn't know what was wrong with me.
Right.
And so I went through the next 30 years of my life, sort of like, I describe it as being like an understudy in a play, but you don't have a script and you don't know what the play is. And yeah, like I just stumbled through my life, basically making it up as I went along. And so when my memories began coming back in 2018, 2019, I started, you know, writing some things down. And then in the fall of 2021, I took a workshop through King's with Kelly Thompson, who has become a wonderful friend of mine, and works as a mentor in the King's MFA program. And it was about writing about difficult things. And I just wanted to take that to see, okay, what can I get down on paper? Is it going to kill me if I get it down on paper? Because I didn't know, like I didn't know what kind of impact that was going to have.
Right.
And And so
was it going to trigger like the memory of what
is
had
it going to be too
happened?
Much? Yeah.
Right.
And I had no intention of writing a full manuscript with it. I was just really at that point testing the water and seeing,
wow,
can I get this on paper? Will it make any sense? And what, and that's where it started.
Wow. And then it became a full manuscript.
Yeah.
And now it's coming out in the fall with Nimbus.
Yeah.
And how does that feel? Like, are you nervous? Are you excited?
I'm excited. I'm really, I've just a couple of weeks ago got the mock-up of the cover, and it's
good.
Very exciting. And I'm just working on the final edits right now, and I'm really, really happy with it as a piece of writing. I think I've done my best, and I think it's has the potential to help some people, or to speak to people and spark some discussions, which is what I really want.
Which is what you want.
Yeah. At the same time, having something that's personal come out is a much different experience than having a novel where, I just like made up people in my head and wrote about them.
Right. This is real life. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And was it before you started having memories that you did your social work while you were still in
while
that?
I was still dissociated. Yeah. And
wow.
Yeah, exactly. There's always jokes about people entering psychology or social work because they want to help themselves. And that
you need the help.
Probably part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I applaud you. I think that's wonderful. And do you think you have another book in you, or are you going to write it?
Yeah,
oh,
I have
many?
a list of currently 11 books.
Oh,
I have like a little plan.
Excellent.
I have to make up for lost time, because there was a lot of time that I didn't write. The whole time I was dissociated, I didn't have a voice. So as much as I had started out my life wanting to be a writer, wanting to be a journalist, I lost all of that. And so now I'm making up for lost time. Wow. So I'm actually working on another novel right now. I'm probably about a third of the way through. Yeah.
Fabulous. And does it have like a little supernatural bent to it?
Well, I guess it does. I didn't think that it was going to. It's a dual timeline, contemporary and historical, and there seems to be a ghost cat in it.
I love it. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Michelle, we are at our time, which is crazy. This went so fast. It's been such a delight. I'm so glad that we had this time together. I should break into song.
Yes, I know that reference.
Every time. So I hope you'll come back when your new book comes out. It's absolutely my pleasure. So we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Anne.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us on the author journey today. I'm Anne O'Connell, and we'll see you next time. I hope you're reading a great book or writing the next great novel, and we'll see you next time on the author journey. Bye for now.